it's completely therapeutic. And also learning the city in a different way, like learning the city by in a more personal way, learning how different areas smell, even, you know, good or bad. Like just learning the city more intimately than you would otherwise, because it takes you on back roads. I love that. Portland greenways are a way for me to safely get to where I need to go. You know, I live off of Powell and Division, and Division has some bike lanes. Powell I would never dare ride my bike on. I see people doing it all the time. I would never do it myself. I like to think back when I was commuting every day, it was a community. Like the people that were leaving, like during specific times, you got to know the specific cyclists, whether you talked to them or not. You were cycling next to the same people every single day. Oh, I wish I could still bike commute to work. I used to work out in Beaverton, and I would commute there via the Greenways and Max every day. Now I work up in Vancouver, and they have the 205 corridor, which was specifically built for like bikes and pedestrians. I don't feel safe riding that though by myself. People have harassed bikers, attacked bikers, so it's not something that I would ever feel comfortable doing alone anymore. So unfortunately I can no longer bike to work, which has been a real loss to me. So I use the greenways primarily to get to, I do paddling on the river at nights, and I use it to get to practice, and I use it to get to my, you know, extracurricular activities. But I miss feeling safe enough to be able to commute to my work every day. I wish I could still do that because I hate battling with traffic. I tried it when I first got hired, because it's like 13 miles to my, you know, place of work, but it just wasn't safe anymore. And that was even in a self-contained corridor, you know, that was specifically built for bikes and pedestrians, but it was just no longer safe for me to do. Like, and I didn't feel comfortable cycling in past dark. For those areas specifically, I think it would take addressing our homeless problem in a meaningful way. You know, I feel like right now all we do is shuffle people around, and we're not giving them a legitimate living space. So it would take like meaningfully addressing the government coming together to address our homeless crisis, to be able to clean those up, because that's the areas that people feel safe right now. So we would have to address that, and we're not doing it. All we're doing is putting band-aids on the problem with every little ordinance we pass. It's a real shame, because I feel like the city tried, you know, with the spring water and the 205, and they tried to do these things that were specialty to bikes, but I think it's a communication breakdown. Like, I think that honestly, like, without getting political, like, I think it's a national problem. Like, I feel like we have lost the ability to communicate with each other effectively. That doesn't come from a place of anger, but comes from a place of understanding. And so I think that we have all these platforms like Nextdoor and social media platforms that make it so easy for people just to vent into oblivion without actually addressing the problem. But I do think that if we could somehow harbor that conversation, primarily between cyclists and, you know, commuters, car commuters, because I think that there's some ill will there in the city specifically, because I think that Portland triumphs itself as like a very bike-friendly community, but I think that that's harbored some ill will between the motorists and the cyclists. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just what if you're looking at purely social media, like that's the vibe I get, is that there's a lot of frustration and a lot of anger, specifically towards the greenways, that in a city where people have seen the traffic go up, they're saying like, I could be using this street and all of a sudden it's blocked off with cement barriers, and that frustrates me. So I think if there was a conversation to be had about the benefits of people switching, and like what you could gain by actually looking at other forms of transportation rather than demonizing that, maybe that would help. When I was commuting to work, like it was a really good release of my anxiety, like like I said, I'm a teacher, so there's a lot of just kind of day-to-day anxiety that goes with that, and it was a really good way to like prepare myself and then let go of it at the end of the day, rather than having anxiety build by being stuck into traffic. Like even if my commute was long, at least I'm moving, and it was a really good, I think that I gained a lot from that, and now I have to work a little bit harder to find access to that. I think there's so much freedom in cycling, and I also find it just really empowering not having, having to rely on less, having to like rely on just the things that I can carry with me, meaning I'm making meaningful choices about where I'm going and like what I'm taking with me.